Yeah, I'll start. When did he
Good
give
morning.
you?
No,
Tell
this
me.
is not the time.
All right.
This is not
Okay,
the
we got a
time.
share going here.
Here, you want to pass one to Richie? Okay. Good morning to everybody.
You must be a Democrat, Hinda.
The good to see everybody again, virtual and in person. We are at Reish Pei Hey. We last week finished Sif Gimel. If I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe that's where we ended last week. That we said Miyom Rishon Ve'elach Choshuv Yimat Tzibor. That from Sunday on, and we really clarified the mission. We clarified really from Shabbos Mincha and on. That's considered with the Tzibor when you're doing the mitzvah of Shnaim Mikra V'Echad Targum. Okay, does that sound familiar? Hopefully, to everybody from last week, that you could do this mitzvah throughout the entirety of the week, and the idea is that some people did it all at one shot, some people did it really over the course of the week. However, you see fit is the best way to get the mitzvah done. So we're gonna begin this week with Sif Daled, where the Mechaber begins by saying. Mitzvah min hamuvchar sheyashlim osa kodem sheyochal b'Shabbos. The choicest way of to do the mitzvah of Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum is to complete it before you eat on Shabbos. Okay. Now the key word here is sheyashlim, and that's perhaps helps. I think Bruce was like, "Whoa, the whole thing on Shabbos morning. It's a big ask, right?" So I think he's saying here the key word is yashlim, that you complete it, and we'll talk about that. It's an important word that there's a couple of the great 20th century poskim, like Rav Kanievsky and the Chazon Ish, took very literally in terms of the completion part being on Shabbos morning.
Well, we already learned you could start earlier. You could start on during the week and even on Friday. And
Yes, so 100%, but you could have read this as, you could do it that way, but the best way is to do it on Shabbos morning. But that's why the word here that is very key is sheyashlim. Okay, and I think also this is why this is in this, now it became more clear to me as I was reading through this a little bit more, that this is why this halacha is here in Shulchan Aruch. After Kriyas HaTorah of the Tzibor, there's a mitzvah you see here to learn, to finish the parsha of your own personal learning before you eat, before Shabbos lunch. So this is connected Torah-wise, and then I believe that's why this might be at this particular location. Maybe you would think, this should be in the weekday section of Orach Chaim, but it's here. Okay. If you didn't finish the Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum before you ate lunch, so then complete it after, you can complete it after eating, but try to get it done before Mincha on Shabbos afternoon. V'yesh Omrim, and there are those that say, Ad Revi b'Shabbos. You really have until Wednesday, okay, or what we call Tuesday night, okay. So if you don't get it done by lunch on Shabbos, the teacher always caves in and gives you an extension. So some authorities give you an extension till Wednesday, and then there are the teachers who are sometimes too lenient, and that will lead to a lot of procrastination from students. V'yesh omrim ad Shmini Atzeres. That if you don't finish by Shabbos lunch, you could finish by Shmini Atzeres. You'll turn it in by Shmini Atzeres, your Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum that you missed of that week. One second, let me just finish this to the end here. Dahainu b'simchas Torah she'az mashlimim hatzibur, which is basically why Shmini Atzeres, because that's when we celebrate the completion of the Torah, Simchas Torah. When the tzibur, remember, it's supposed to finish im hatzibur. Well, when does the tzibur finish the entirety of the Torah? Simchas Torah. That's why you have until Shmini Atzeres, according to some opinions, as a fallback. That if you don't complete Shnai Mikra Targum, so if you didn't get it done this week, you have until Simchas Torah to do the makeup. Now, the interesting questions become: what do I prioritize? Do I prioritize this week's Shnai Mikra Targum, or do I prioritize what I didn't do last week? That is a machlokes, and I don't want to get too far into it because it's really as far as on either side. It probably makes more sense to this week's parsha, because then the idea is to be learning with the tzibur, and then finish, and then you should create extra time in your schedule to go back and finish. That way, you are being mashlim with the tzibur at the very least, by the time that the theme is being made on Simchas Torah with the entire community. Yes, Steve. What was that? You're right. There was Tashlum, and then people would owe years and years and years of Shnai Mikra Targum. It's would not be if you had to do it that week, it would also be complicated. Well, all right, we'll see. Yes, Simeon, what do you want to add?
The V'yesh Omrim, either it's unclear or it doesn't make sense. When he says Ad Hamincha, you're talking about the current Parshat HaShavua.
Yes,
When you start to go after Mincha, you're talking about the new Parsha already that we read in Shul.
that's right.
So what are you talking about?
According to the first opinion, there are three opinions about when is the latest I could make up Shnai Mikra V'Chatargum. I think everybody agrees it should be done by the time you eat lunch on Shabbos. Which, by the way, a side point, I love that because it almost shows you that when you sit down at the Shabbos table for lunch, what should you be armed to talk about? The Parsha, right? That you're finishing the Parsha before lunch. So you can talk about it at the Parsha. That's my own extra commentary. But then there are three opinions about when's the latest time you can make it up if you don't get it done by lunch. First opinion says you have until Mincha. And that opinion would hold that if you don't finish the Parsha by Mincha, to sort of quote Steve here a moment ago, there is no Tashlumin. It's like, forget it. Like, there's no opportunity to make up for that miss. Okay, you'll get it next week.
Right,
don't worry.
right.
Give yourself a clap on the back. Don't worry, you'll get it next week. But don't worry about what's already done. The second opinion says if you don't get it done by Shabbos Mincha, right? Okay, you have until Tuesday night, until Revi, until Yom Revi. Well, we'll talk about why these opinions
You're
exist.
talking about last week's Parsha at that point.
You're right. But you want to be mashlim the Parshiyos Savi Matzibor, which is that, and so we'll explain in a moment. So actually, hang tight, Simeon, because you'll see in the Mishnah Berurah is going to explain why the Wednesday piece makes any sense, and then the Shmini Atzeres why that opinion makes sense according to its own reasoning. So we're gonna let's see right now. Let's read the Mishnah Berurah. Michael, what did you want to say very quickly?
You were talking about finishing it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
You also said something about midbar. What happens if you at the end of Wednesday midbar? Is it okay?
You missed the opportunity. That if you didn't according to that opinion, you just missed it. There's nothing you could do. Yeah, you just moved to the next parsha. All right, let's take a look here at Sifkat on test. Shviyashlim Osa. Okay, this is what you should finish before eating on Shabbos. Midrash. It's like the teaching that we have in the Medrash that says Shetziva Rabbi Yasvanav. Rabbi commanded his sons for the following: Al tachul lechem b'Shabbos ad shetikmru es kol haparsha. Went to his kids and he said, "Don't eat any bread on Shabbos until you finish the parsha." In my edition, it says exclamation point. I don't know if you have that in your edition. I have an exclamation point in my edition, as if to say Rabbi was like yelling at his kids, "Don't eat until you finish the parsha." We call makom pasha de'ein la'akev mecha mazeh ha'achila ad achar chatzos. But very important to note, you shouldn't delay eating lunch past chatzos as a result of this, because that is its own isser, which we'll get to in a couple of simanim from now. That you're not supposed to not supposed to fast past chatzos. That's why of all the reasons to eat a kiddush, that's the one. Because if you don't eat a kiddush, you'll probably run it very close to chatzos, if not past chatzos. Particularly in the winter months when chatzos is early. So that's why eating a kiddush is a good idea. Okay. And this, by the way, this is a mitzvah ba'alma. This is a very nice mitzvah to get it done by the time that we eat lunch. But that's a mitzvah ba'alma. The finishing it at lunch, by lunch, is a mitzvah ba'alma. The mitzvah to not fast past chatzos is a real din d'Rabbanan. It's a real din d'Rabbanan to do Shnai Mikra V'Chatargum, but that it's a mitzvah min mufchar that it should be done by Shabbos morning. All right, you get it done by mincha. You shouldn't wait to eat lunch because of this. That's the point.
I assume we don't tell us, but
yeah,
is it
yeah?
Is it not optimal to finish it before dawn?
It is optimal. It is. Let's keep reading. I'll answer the question. Here we go. Let's keep reading.
That was last week.
It relates a little bit to last week, but now he says, meaning there is a din that we mentioned last week that Friday, that some people had the minhag on Friday afternoon after, not Friday afternoon. Yeah, Friday afternoon after mincha on Friday afternoon, that they would just sit and they would knock out the whole parsha. The whole thing. They would put aside hours to learn it. So he says here, lechatchila, it's correct. Im lokar shnai mikra v'chatargum. If you didn't do it on Friday, lahashkim b'Shabbos aboker. So you should get up on Shabbos early in the morning. Likro shnai mikra v'chatargum kodem hachali chaso lebeis hakneses. Don't wait until after shul's over, and then you're going to stick it in between shul and lunch. He says if you didn't do it during the week, so when you get up in the morning, do it before you come to shul on Shabbos. You don't have to get up early for work, etc. Get up early to learn Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum before you have to go to shul. And that's what it says. Kein Isa ba'or zarua reish lechos Shabbos v'chein mucha b'talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah reish brachos. That's what the or zarua and the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah, which you can find in the back of Maseches Brachos, all say this is what you do. You get up Shabbos morning and you finish. If you didn't finish it on Friday. So hopefully that gives you an answer to the question about. It's ideal that you should get it done leading into Shabbos. Though here, by the way, the Mishnah, it is important to note, the Shulchan Aruch did mention this whole thing about being mashlim on Shabbos morning. So so I'll give you a couple of extra little nuggets here. Sorry, I'm just looking for which number this was. No, we didn't get to it yet. Okay, so we'll see that there are a couple of the poskim of Chazon Ish and Rav Chaniatsky. One of them, I forget which one, was makbid to finish the Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum on Shabbos morning. He would leave a little piece, like almost like a siyum, on that parsha that Shabbos morning. Okay,
that makes eminent sense. That's great, because when you're in shul and you hear Kriyas HaTorah read for sure, then you have the familiarity and the understanding of what you're hearing and what is being read.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense that you should really have it done beforehand. Maybe read a pasuk or two at the end. Oh, we have passed right at 32. Oh, there you go. See, this is why it's good that you have this edition, so you can keep me in check. So, right. So here it says in these extra notes that this Dirshu edition, even if it was right. Hold on. This is dealing with. No. Here, I'll tell you which one it is. Number 24. The Chazon Ish here. Chazon Ish Nag Lomar Kol Yom Ktsas Mea Parsha. Ela Shayamashir Parsha Achas Lekor B'Shabbos La'achar Tefillah Boker. So the Chazon Ish was makbid. He wanted to be exactly fulfill the Shulchan Aruch's words. So he would leave a little piece. He would leave the last piece to finish on Shabbos morning after davening was over, but before lunch. So he wanted to really do it the perfect way, the mitzvah v'avuvchar. But okay, fine. And when did he do this, by the way? See, when you're the Chazon Ish, the minyan revolves around. Not in an egocentric way, but the minyan essentially revolves around you. So what would he do? It sounds like they would finish Kriyas HaTorah, then he would take out his personal chumash, and he would, read through the rest. Okay, on to Musaf. It's a different story when you're the Chazon Ish. You could just stop and give yourself a few minutes. So, anyways, that's just something to keep in mind. But again, I think that really makes sense that to really come prepared for Kriyas HaTorah. It changes Kriyas HaTorah. I'm telling you, having done this, you really are able to focus a lot better. In my humble opinion, that's just me. Yud. Why until mincha is according to one opinion the real tashlumin time, or after that give up, forget it, next week, let's turn the page. And the answer is because that's when the tzibur starts to begin reading the next week's parsha. So if the idea is that you're being mashlim im hatzibur, well, the im hatzibur is gone now. The tzibur has moved on, according to this opinion, and therefore there is no making it up at this point. Move on. Be with the tzibur for next week. It's like, okay, you didn't do what you're supposed to this week. Turn the page. Don't worry about it. Okay. The second opinion, Yud Aleph, says you have until Wednesday. Ad Revi b'Shabbos. Where does this come from? It's kind of random. Very good, excellent. So the Shlosha Yamim Harishonim Shayochin Adayin Ktsas l'Shabbos Shavar. The first 3 days of the week are somewhat, a little bit tied to the previous Shabbos. How do we see that? As the Dr. Noble was acknowledging here, he says, when we get there, hopefully, I don't know, maybe a year off from there, that regarding the laws of Havdalah, you have until, if you don't make Havdalah al Hakos, even if you made it in the davening, but you didn't do the mitzvah al Hakos, and you forget Motzei Shabbos, or more likely, okay, this happens from time to time, a person is an onain. The most realistic scenario is a person is an onain over Shabbos. You don't make Havdalah when Shabbos is over, and actually you would make Havdalah after the burial when you get back home. And sometimes there's been scenarios where the burial, whatever, because of the delay here, delay there, ends up sometimes being until Monday. And you have to remember, it's one of these like obscure halachos, to remember to make Havdalah on a Monday sometimes. If the burial didn't happen on Sunday, someone was nifter over Shabbos, and then they can't get the burial together on Sunday and until Monday. So you make Havdalah all the way after Monday. Okay, you still say Baruch Hamad and Kodesh L'chol to end the, okay, but to make the Havdalah al Hakos, which you wouldn't use with some and an Aish at that point, but you would still make the other brachos. Another example of that which happens every few years, that everybody is subject to, is when Tisha B'Av falls out on a Sunday, or a Saturday night Sunday, we postpone the Havdalah until Motzei Tisha B'Av. But an important fact to know, if a person were to have to break the fast, you would make Havdalah on Tisha B'Av. If a person had to. You wouldn't use grape juice in that situation because that's not fitting on that particular day, still to use grape juice, but you could use the Famar Medina. But anyways, that's an example where all of us are sometimes subject to that rule. But you have to remember that you have until Tuesday night to make Havdalah al Hakos. Okay?
Rav,
Simeon?
Rav, I thought that an onain is potter. He's potter from tefillah. He's potter from tefillin. He's
Absolutely.
potter min mitzvos.
Yes, but that mitzvah is not gone. That's exactly, you're dafka making the point. The mitzvah is not gone. The ideal time is gone, but the mitzvah is not gone. So if I become eligible again because the burial is completed, I must do Havdalah because the time for Havdalah has not passed yet. Havdalah can be up until Tuesday night.
What about the other mitzvot? I mean, does he have to put on tefillin 2 times? Or?
No, because the time for tefillah is over. The time for shachar Sunday morning is over. The time for mincha Sunday afternoon is over, and there's no tashlumin when it's not done b'shogeg. It wasn't shogeg; it was complete tour from tefillah. So even if you want to say, after the burial, I should make up the time from the time I didn't daven earlier in the day. No. That's not a thing.
You see that also doesn't make sense. For example, if he's a no-name and he hasn't made Havdalah yet, and then he participates in the Kavura without having made Havdalah, isn't that contrary to what he's doing, not having made Havdalah?
No, because you're saying Hamavdil ben Kodesh. No, you end the Shabbos by saying the magic words Hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol. Baruch Hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol. Now you said the words, so you can do any malacha you want.
But he's a no-name. Why is he saying even part of the tefillot?
He's not saying a bracha. He's saying words which, again, on Shabbos you're not allowed to observe any aninus publicly. So that you have to make some declaration that you're ending Shabbos because you're not saying Mariv as an onain. Okay? Right. So you have to say the words like we do on Tisha B'Av, by the way. Again, before you come to shul on Tisha B'Av night, Baruch hamavdil ben kodesh shechol. Or if you forget to say the the paragraph of Atachon Antanu in the Amida, and you're already on to the next bracha, you don't make it up. You just say Baruch hamavdil ben kodesh shechol after the Shemona Esrei is over, and that is sufficient to allow you to do malacha and all sorts of things. And the same would go for an onen. You would just say Baruch hamavdil ben kodesh shechol, and they're done. That's the end of Shabbos for you. And then you move on to being, to all the laws of Aninus that kick in. Okay, let's take a look at Yud Beis. Ad Shmini Atzeres. The third opinion says you can go till Shmini Atzeres. By the way, it's almost a very cruel opinion to say Ad Shmini Atzeres, because all the parshios that a person maybe has missed. It's like it's overwhelming. How do you make that up? Anyways, he says Ad Shmini Atzeres. Hainu be'Eretz Yisrael shesham osed Shmini Atzeres rak yom echad. When he says Shmini Atzeres, he's talking about an Eretz Yisrael because there it's all one day. They stick Simchas Torah onto Shmini Atzeres. I always have to explain to kids, and I try to beat this into their head, guys, Simchas Torah is a rabbinic holiday. The real holiday here, the reason that there's no malacha, is it's Shmini Atzeres. I said it's convenient that there are no special halachos for Shmini Atzeres. In Chutz La'aretz, we sit in the sukkah on the first day of Shmini Atzeres. The second day should also be called Shmini Atzeres. We call the second day Simchas Torah, but it's Shmini Atzeres. It's the second day. And that's why the davening, the benching, it's Chag Shmini Atzeres. That's the insertion that you make. There's no Al Yom Simchas Torah has it. It's not Simchas Torah Midoraisa. Simchas Torah is something we added on later on as a way to celebrate the holiday. Anyways, so the Gomer Mahat Tzibur Az HaSefer Torah. And the Tzibur finishes the Sefer Torah on Shmini Atzeres Simchas Torah. V'lakach b'diavad mikri ad yom Hahu mashlim parshios savim hatzibur. So b'diavad, that's called ad, mashlim im hatzibur, because the tzibur is also being mashlim the Torah that day. But look, lechatchila everybody agrees he should finish on Shabbos. Like that's really the whole point of this, is that you're with the tzibur every week. Okay, Yud Gimel, yeah.
Rabbi Yosef Karo uses the word, right? Ad Shmini Atzeres, ad Revi'i, right? He's saying until then.
Yeah.
At the end time.
Yes.
He talks about it on Shabbos. He doesn't use
Ad
Shabbos. He uses Sheyashlim.
Yashlim. You're completing it.
Right?
Yeah.
Meaning he uses a different word, which would imply something a little different.
Yes, 100%. Oh yeah.
But also, and when you said, "Oh, it's not fair," because you can have all these that sort of come up. I think the fact that he says Ad Shmini Atzeres, it doesn't mean you wait until Shmini Atzeres. It just
you're saying you have a time. 100%. You're still good. Correct.
Wait until the end. You just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. All they're saying here is that you've got time to make it up, according to this opinion. For the other opinions, there's nothing to talk about anymore. Look, at the end of the day, how do we paskin? I think we're making like a last opinion. Because what do you lose? You learn Torah. There's nothing lost in this mitzvah if you do it. All right, Yud Gimel. Sha'az mashlim et hatzibur, im yesh lo likros ad shnai mikra ve'echad targum. And when you're making it up by Shmini Atzeres Simchas Torah, so you'll do shnai mikra ve'echad targum when you're doing the makeup sessions here. There must have been some people who thought that you could, in the makeup process, because otherwise I don't understand this comment. I was banging my head over this for a good 30 minutes yesterday. Like, what is he saying here? It's not like those who say that you can just do the mikra by itself. If you're making it up, just do the mikra, catch it up. But at the end of the day, you're also missing the targum. You have to do all of them. So, anyways, because otherwise, what was the chiddush in what he was saying here? Because the tzibur is being mashlim, so you think you can get away with since you're finishing it with your. I'll just do the mikra. It doesn't make sense. If the mitzvah is shnei mikra targum, I'm not sure what the havamina was exactly. If you have anybody here has a good explanation, I'm not sure exactly what the havamina was of this comment of the Mishnah Berurah. Other than maybe he was responding to the Osan Shekor Mikra Lechud, those who were just like, okay, I'm making it up, so I'm just going to read the Parsha. He's saying, no, that's not enough. If you want to do the mitzvah the right way, you have to do also the the Targum.
Some people had the custom of reading the whole Torah.
On Simchas Torah?
Maybe they were going to fulfill their responsibility.
Oh, so there were individuals who had the minhag to read the entire Torah? Well, okay, that makes sense. Okay, all right, there you go. So Steve's edition of the Oz V'Hadar over there explains it, right? That there were people who had a minhag to read on an individual basis to read the entirety of the Torah on Simchas Torah. What a minhag, by the way!
Like Shavuos night, but Sfardim they do it.
They read the entirety of the Torah. That's
There is a tikkun
Yeah. Yeah.
for a whale.
Including Bereshis?
The tikkun for.
yeah,
Sure.
and the minhag is to do the entire Torah.
Certainly Shavuos night they do. Sfardim do.
Right.
Tikkun list.
So therefore, since they're reading the entirety of the Torah, you might have thought, well, I'll do what they're doing. And B'Yotzeh, the answer is no. You're making up for the mitzvah from weeks ago. Yeah. Tikkun Al Sharav I've heard of. That's the Hasidic, origins. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, getting back to the idea of Shabbos extends till Tuesday night.
Yes.
I remember once there was a rough year one of our scholars in residence whose name escapes me, but he was explaining Yom Ha'Shmol Tifrotzi.
Yeah.
So Yom Ha'Shmol Tifrotzi, he said that's symbolized by the menorah itself as a central candle, a central there,
Yeah.
and then there are three to the right and three to the left.
Mm-hmm.
So Yom Ha'Shmol Tifrotzi
That's the week.
Yeah, that Yom Revi, Chamishi, and Shishi are to the right, and that Yom Rishon, Sheni to the left.
Oh, nice.
And so the menorah,
The middle one is Wednesday. Yom Revi. Oh, sorry, Shabbos. Right. So they're all connected. One before the Shabbos coming in, Shabbos.
Like Wednesday, you already starting to feel the light of Shabbos,
Right.
and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday,
You're still feeling
light of Shabbos is weakening,
Right.
and then Wednesday you start feeling the light of the following Shabbos.
Mm.
So that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday belong to the previous Shabbos,
Yeah.
and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday belong to the following Shabbos.
Right. So if those of you are listening on Zoom, so Richie was just explaining that there was once a scholar in residence who explained a beautiful idea that the menorah has 7 branches. The middle branch is like Shabbos. The 3 to the right are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The ones on the other side of the middle branch are the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and in the connecting it to Yamin Shmol Tifrotzi. That basically this is an interesting way to remember. Shabbos is at the center.
By the way, the Yeshua Shayom Yom Ravi
Yeah.
It's very long.
ends with
Lakunan.
Right. Correct. That's why the Shir Shayom Rabbi J.J. Schachter loves to say that that's when Shabbos really you could start to smell Shabbos already. That's why he said we add in because we say a whole paragraph of Tehillim and then we add in the next pasuk from the first from Lakunan Ranana. Yeah. Very good. All right, let's keep going here. Let's go to Sif Hey. Okay, Sif Hey. Just looking if there's anything here I needed to add from the Aruch HaShulchan.
Upstairs?
Yeah, we're gonna go upstairs here. Yeah. All right. By the way, for whatever it's worth, the Aruch HaShulchan says that. He says that the minhag is that if you didn't do, he says, he says, basically, like if you didn't do it before, the halach, the minhag is that you would still make it up till Simchas Torah. So nobody would tell you, forget it. Everyone's always saying, yeah, make it up until Simchas Torah if you miss. That seems to be the minhag, at least from this, from Aruch HaShulchan, who was a community rav. So I guess he must have handed out that kind of psak halacha to his folks. Okay, hey, in the Shulchan Aruch, back upstairs. Yachol likros haparsha shnai mikra vechatargum b'shas kriyas haTorah v'ayin le'el simin kuf mem vav. So it is possible to read Shnai Mikra, to read the parsha Shnai Mikra V'Chatargum during the time of Kriyas HaTorah. This is a controversial halacha. We're going to see
like
machlokas here. So that while Kriyas HaTorah is going on, you can also do your own personal mitzvah at the same time. Then he does the really important little line here, which I'm not even sure is necessarily the Ramah, by the way. But he then written here, V'ayin la'el simin kuf mem vav. Okay. I love that when there's like go look over there. Okay. Important to look over there. Take a look first at Sifkat and Tezav. Let's go to that first. Then we'll go back to Yudalad. What is this ayin la'el simin kuf mem vav? So it says there, Hamachaber b'sif beis, the Sham Masik Hamachaber b'sif beis, the Mechaber himself in Sif beis of that Siman earlier in Shulchan Aruch about Kriyas HaTorah, right? The Nachon lahamedaktek b'dvarav l'chavein dato l'sham mipi hakora. It is correct to have kavana that to listen to the words from the Balkore. Okay, v'hu mishum dechashash gam kein ladas haposkim she'evesi lamala. Says because we're worried about the poskim that he's like I just mentioned in Sif Yudalad. So earlier in Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Chaber says listen to the Balkore. Here he says Yachol. You can do the mitzvah of Shnai Mikra V'Chatargum during the time of Kriyas HaTorah. So how does this shtim? Because if he's going to say it's not, if it's the right thing to do over there, why is he telling us that it's okay to do it over here? So let's look at Yudalad now. B'simin kuf mem vav b'magen Avraham sif katan hey hevi b'shem ashlosha shemachmir bazeh. The magen Avraham in the name of the Shlah. Says he was machmir on this one, meaning he didn't do it. Okay, he would listen. He wasn't saying the Shnai Mikra during the time of Kriyas HaTorah. Rather, everybody's got to stop, pay attention. Shliach Tzibur is laning. Listen carefully. And this is the opinion of the Gra. How do we know? Because in the Maaseh Rav, the Talmud of his wrote down. The Vilna Gaon is listening carefully to the Kriyas HaTorah. He's not saying Shnai Mikra V'Chatargum because you know that they would have been looking at him because it's the Machlokas, it's the Mechaber. So the Talmidim were looking. What does he do? Oh, he doesn't say it. So they write down the Maaseh Rav. The Vilna Gaon didn't do Shnai Mikra V'Chatargum. He would listen carefully to the Shliach Tzibur. And what did he do? Not just that. The Tzarech Lishma Kol Teva V'Teva B'Liros B'Chumash V'Lo Yisrael HaKorah Klal. What did he do? He would look in his Chumash. He would follow along with his finger, word for word, and he would listen very carefully and intently. And V'Lo Yisrael HaKorah. He didn't help the Baal Korah at all. He's listening with intent to the Baal Korah while he follows in a Chumash. Umashma Shetafsu Ha'ikar Kedas HaShibole Leket B'Shem Rabo. Ram, I believe that the nope, not what I think it's not the Rambam. Who's the Ram here? I'm not sure. Shehuva Bahagos Maimoni, who's one of the commentaries on the side of the Mishnah Torah of the Rambam. Uveis Yosef Sham. Now it's bothering me who is the Reish Mem here. Derak ben Gavra leGavra Mutter. That the Shibbolei Haleket, in the name of his Rabbi, and also there's the Ram, we're going to figure out who that is, would say, no. When he's talking about, when we're saying that it's Mutter, the time of Kriyas HaTorah, it means ben Gavra leGavra, which means between Aliyos. So when the Aliyah is over, and they're giving 16 Misha Berachs, and the Misha Berach for the dog, and the Misha Berach for the kiddush she's going to give, and this one, that one, okay, in the meantime, I'm going to learn. And I'm reading my Shnai Mikra V'Chatargum, and I'm going along over here.
Could the Ram be the Rami Rutenberg?
Rami Rutenberg. Oh, that's possible. Rami Rutenberg. Very possible. I have to look in the. Yeah. What was that? That's my Rami Rutenberg. Okay. So that Ram is Rav Meir Rutenberg. Okay. Very good. Thank you. So they were of the opinion that it's ben Gavra leGavra. That's when it's mutter. Nevertheless, it appears that to read quietly. So they're reading everything Bereshit bara Elokim Bereshit. So what I'm just saying, I'm whispering it to myself, right? As gam lishma kol tev mishpim pi shliach tzibur. So what do I lose? I still hear Bereshit bara Elokim. I'm just reading quietly to myself. But not that I can't hear them. That he's laning nice and loud. So he says, with that, ein lahachmir bazeh. Kevan shemechaven az gam lishma kol tev pi shliach tzibur. He says, don't be machmir on this one. You know why? Because then you have to try to also hear something else. Meaning, it makes it hard. So he says, sorry. He says, don't be so strict on this, because you need to have kavanah to hear it from l'shliach tzibur. Now, but the Magen of Ram Hevi b'sham b'shem Mate Moshe, the lechatchil nachol latos came. No. The Mate Moshe said, it's best to do it like this. Say it quietly with him.
And it counts as one?
Yeah, for sure. But then at that point, you're saying it also. The whole mitzvah of Shnei Mechav Targum is to say it out loud. That would count as one.
So
V'chein kasu kamachon. There are other achron who
you're
agree.
doing two things at
Why does he say to do that? And take a look in my extra comments if you want, Jeffrey, number 32. Rav Kanievsky. Okay, Chaim Kanievsky. Okay, Likro. Was it Chaim Kanievsky or it's Yud Kanievsky? So it must have been one of the other, maybe the Stipler. Likro esapam hashniya shel shmos. He did his second reading of Shnei Mechav Targum. Yachad im hashatz. He dafka did it. Rav Kanievsky did it with the shots. Ubein gavra legavra. This is only he could do this. He could pull this off. The Stipler could pull it off. Kares hatargum. So between the aliyos, that's when he would stick in the targum. Okay. The Chazon Ish, but the Chazon Ish didn't agree. Nog lishtok be'es lakriyo lahakshiv mitoch chumash. He was quiet and he paid attention. He looked in the chumash and he would follow along in the chumash quietly. Okay. All right. Very good. They make a point here about the Kriyas HaMegillah, but Kriyas HaMegillah is a totally different animal where you have to hear more than half of it from the clock. Yes, Simeon, go ahead.
Rob, it seems to me that what we just learned to the end of V'chein kosvu kama achronim, it's such a conflict that the reader or I do not know where to stand or what to do. When we have to daven and say tefillot, you cannot simply sight read. You must do what halachically is called mashmiya li'ozno. You have to hear your own voice reciting the tefillot. So now, if I am hearing myself, it's like if you hear a shofar like from a barrel or in a cave, are you hearing the echo? What is it that you're hearing? And if you're obligated to hear the kriya from the Baal Koreh, then you have no business at all saying it aloud to yourself or saying it aloud so you hear it. It's a conflict. Which way do you go on this?
Yeah, no, it's 100% a conflict. So it seems, according to the Mishnah Brura, right? The answer is you should make sure to listen and not do it at that time. But there are opinions that say do it at that time. Now, in fact, at that time, and by the way, and that might even mean that you might not actually say the word. We're going to see in a moment. I'm going to read Aruch HaShulchan and the Be'er Halacha in a moment, and this is actually really comes to a big head. What if when you're reading along, if you hold the opinion you should read along, and you're not reading along at the same words? What happens? Now you're really in trouble. Now, according to some, we're going to read a shocking opinion, which is that maybe that's still okay. So let's take a look at the Be'er Halacha. Yachol likros haparsha v'chulei. Okay. He quotes the Eli Rabbah here in a shocking quotation. He says in the Eli Rabbah, "Shekasav dehu mitzvah min hamuvchar." It's actually the choicest way to do Shnai Mikra is while they're doing Kriyas HaTorah. Upelehu. He said the Chafetz Chaim says, what? He says, I don't get that. Doesn't make any. What is the Eliyahu Rabbah thinking? The Haloha Mechaber Be'atzmo, the Mechaber himself. Earlier, you shouldn't do this if you're being careful. There are some sorry, we have Rishonim who say you should not be reading along with the Baal Korah. Listen. But look, those who are makel have whom to rely upon. Now, he says here, Ayin Sham, about Chalila Denema who dehu mitzvah min mufchar. But he's like, I don't like he said mitzvah min mufchar. You want to be makel, we makel. But to say it's a mitzvah min mufchar, I don't like that. That's not okay. Chalila to say that it was a mitzvah min mufchar. And then he says here, he brings from the Bach, Ein Shum, and he says Ein Shum Raya Laham Ayin Sham. It must have been that the Eliyahu Rabbah was talking about ben gavra legavra. That's mitzvah min avufchar. Oh, learn between the aliyos instead of talking. Anyways, and the Matasi shekvar tafas alav v'chol sefer ba'amar Mordechai u'mastik delo kivasei v'ayim mashu kasavtu b'mishnah berurah b'shem aslav agrash sovereign etc. Okay, now the Aruch HaShulchan says something very interesting and very quick. He says quotes from the Shulchan Aruch, and then he says, he says the shot of the Mishnah Berurah of the Shulchan Aruch is that when you're saying it along quietly, you're not saying it at the same time. You're not. He says you might be saying that you might be a few words behind. You're not shaveh with the Koreh, and it's still fine. Why is it okay? He says you're reading about the same things. You're a few words off. It's a shocking opinion, a little bit, but he does not qualify this at all in this particular section. I didn't look at the Aruch HaShulchan earlier in Shulchan Aruch. He does not qualify it one iota in terms of is this ideal or not. He does not say anything about maybe it's not the best thing to do, etc., etc. He just acknowledges that you could do this, and you would fulfill the mitzvah, and it would be okay even if you were some words off. Yeah, Steve. Yeah.
The reason is that during laning, if you're listening to law laning,
Yeah.
and your mind wanders to other things, while if you're reading along,
Right.
the word, then you're not going to have
your mind is not wandering off. Anything is so just to quote so the Perusha that was given to the Mate Moshe, Steve has a little in the Oz V'Hadar. The reason that maybe lechatchila you should be reading along is because Kriyas HaTorah is long and your mind wanders. I like that, and so therefore this focuses you in. So you should read quietly. You're not overtaking the Baal Koreh, but you should try to read along so that you're focused on the Kriyas HaTorah and not on the wherever else our brains might decide to wander. One moment.
Did you have some? It's unwritten word back.
You went what?
So what happened if I'm
Yeah.
Say my teacher said, it takes you 15 minutes after you hear it. They take you half hour.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's basically common thing.
Yep. All right. Last thing we're going to learn for today, and then we're going to stop. Vav melamde tinokos instrichin lachzor v'likros parasha b'Shabbos. Perfect. This is me, right? I teach children. So if you are a teacher of children, you teach Torah to children. You don't need to do. You don't need to go back and read the parsha. Do it. Check. It's like a full on exemption because if you're a teacher. No, I'm kidding. There's an explanation behind this. If you're a teacher, he says here you don't need to go back and read the parsha on Shabbos because the assumption is that Malam de Tinokos, look at Tes Zayin in the Mishnah Berurah, V'dafka b'yamehem. This is only in their days of the time of the Mishnah of the Shulchan Aruch, and presumably also other Rishonim. Shayulomdim perush hamikra imatinokos. They would learn the parsha with the kids that week's parsha. They did Parshas HaShavua, but they learned it in the text. It's a bit of a chiddush in our day and age. And then they get the Targum too. You know why? Because when you teach kids, you don't just teach them the text. You explain the story. Yeah, you don't only give them the pshat. But if you just explain you just translate the word for the kids, so you don't get credit for the Targum. You just get the 2 times for reading. Of course, you were going to read it over with them twice because they weren't going to get it the first time. Because the first time, Yankel wasn't even paying attention, so he had to say it again because the second time. What was that? Oh, for sure not. But that's why he says like in Sif Beis from Rashi. Yeah. Correct. It doesn't have to be, by the way, and I don't think it has to be Rashi either. Anything in the style of explaining the text is Targum for the purposes of this mitzvah. And since if you were just translating for the kids, then you need to do your own Targum. But here's the fun part that we learn from this. Because when you teach kids, unlike I did this last year when I taught the 4th graders. Chaval Yair had a game. I think it got rained out from what I see. But he would tell you that when I taught Chumash last year in the 4th grade, we laned the psukim. We laned with the ta'amim, and I taught them a few of the when you stop, when you pause, how you know when a phrase is over. It was like kef katon, et nachta. So, but usually when you're teaching kids Torah, you don't lane the Torah, you read the Torah, you don't lane it. So here, the Mishnah Berurah makes from the Pri Megadim makes a fascinating diuk, which is that you don't have to lane Shnai Mikra when you are trying to fulfill the mitzvah. You could just read it. It's not in the Akev if you don't read it with the trup. What was the Havamina? The Havamina is, and I love the Havamina, meaning what would I thought that I had to be told this? That you might have thought that the ta'amim are such an integral part of how to understand the text. As my Rebbe would tell you, was a big laner, that and I actually remember Hirsch Wolf used to say this all the time because he loved to lane, and I'm sure he still says this out at Atlantic Beach, which is that the trup is one of the earliest forms of commentary on the text. Because where you put the breaks, where you put this particular sound, is a type of commentary on how you break up the phrases. So you might have thought that you should have to read the Havamina is like, oh, what do you mean? It's an integral part of the text. Kamash Malan, it's not. You could do Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum. I mean, it is an integral part of the text, but Kamash Malan, for the purposes of this mitzvah, you don't need to read it with the trup when you're doing Shnai Mikra. All right, we will stop here as I have to leave, and we will finish. We'll be mashlim this simon next week. And we'll jump right into the halachos of Musaf, of Tfilas Musaf on Shabbat. And that's actually not a small statement. There's what to talk about with regards to Musaf. So looking forward to that. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Thank you.
Of course. You too. Have a good day. Or have a good evening already. Almost there.
What I always found interesting is when Yosef is seduced by Potiphar's wife. The word there that has a shalshelet in it.
Right.
I remember learning he was thinking about it. He was
Vayima'ain. It wasn't easy. Correct. The trup is really an integral part of the text. 100%. Yeah.
Yashar Kol.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
You too.
Bye-bye.